Welcome everyone, join us today as we honor the life of Lonnie Donegan, the king of skiffle, who revolutionized British music in the 1950s with hit songs like Rock Island Line. So let's dive in. Lonnie Donegan, born Anthony James Donegan on the 29th of April 1931 in Bridgeton, Glasgow, Scotland. He was zodiac sign Taurus. Lonnie was born to Irish mother Mary and Scottish father Peter John Donegan, a professional violinist who performed with the Scottish National Orchestra before joining the Merchant Navy. The family initially lived in Bridgeton, Glasgow, but moved to East Ham, London, when Lonnie was 2. After his parents divorced, he was raised by his mother. During the Second World War, Lonnie was evacuated to Cheshire to escape the Blitz and attended St Ambrose College in Hale Barnes. His turbulent childhood drew him to music, which became a source of comfort and inspiration. He developed a passion for country, jazz, and blues, with particular admiration for artists like Josh White and Frank Crumit. It was the blues may have inspired Lonnie to purchase his first guitar at the age of 14 in 1945. Exposure to overseas music through BBC radio programs further influenced his style, and he quickly learned songs like Putting on the Style, a hit by Marion Slaughter, also known as Vernon Dalhart, the traditional American murder ballad, Frankie and Johnny, and the timeless folk classic The House of the Rising Sun. His natural talent became evident as he began performing in London clubs, honing his skills on the guitar. His abilities caught the attention of Chris Barber, who had heard of Lonnie's banjo-playing reputation and invited him to audition. In truth, Lonnie had never played the banjo before, but he bought one specifically for the occasion, impressing Barber with a successful audition. Lonnie joined Chris Barber's jazz band, but his collaboration was interrupted by a call to national service. Despite this, he remained connected to music, listening to overseas radio and performing during his military service with Ken Grinya's Wolverines jazz band at a local pub in Southampton, where he was stationed. In 1952, he formed his own group, the Tony Donegan Jazz Band, which gained recognition performing around London. That same year, they opened for renowned blues musician Lonnie Johnson, inspiring Donegan to adopt Lonnie as his stage name. By 1953, the band rebranded as Ken Collier's Jazzmen, honoring cornetist Ken Collier, who had recently joined Chris Barber's band after returning from New Orleans following visa-related imprisonment. The group performed a concert in Copenhagen, followed by the recording of Lonnie's first studio work alongside Ken Collier's Jazzmen and the Monty Sunshine Trio. These sessions, produced by jazz enthusiast Christian Gunnar Albertson, were released by Storyville Records, a Danish label specializing in jazz and blues. Meanwhile, Lonnie, ever the restless innovator, focused on refining his musical style. Drawing from the foundations of Dixieland jazz, a more dynamic offshoot of traditional jazz that incorporated elements of swing and bebop, he began evolving its sound. His approach leaned closer to rhythm and blues, arguably foreshadowing the early forms of rock and roll. Remarkably, this was achieved with minimal instrumentation, an inexpensive Spanish guitar, a banjo, a washtub bass, and a rudimentary washboard for percussion. The first recordings released under Lonnie Donegan's name showcased his remarkable talent to the world. In July 1954, a faster rendition of Lead Belly's folk classic Rock Island Line was issued. The song, originally written in 1929 by Clarence Wilson, was first recorded in 1934 by inmates at Cummins State Farm in Arkansas. The B-side featured John Henry, a ballad about the legendary American folk hero whose existence remains shrouded in mystery. Although Lonnie did not profit directly from the single, as the recording rights were held by the band, it became a massive hit in both the United States and the UK. This success cemented his status as the king of skiffle, a genre blending Dixieland, rhythm and blues, and jazz. That same year, Lonnie released the single, Digging My Potatoes, under Decca Records. However, the label dropped him shortly afterward. This setback didn't slow him down, as he signed with Pye Records in 1955 and released Lost John, which climbed to number 2 on the UK charts. In the summer of 1956, Lonnie released his debut album, Lonnie Donegan Showcase, a landmark record that established skiffle as a distinct genre and achieved significant success. The album featured tracks by Leroy Carr and Lead Belly, as well as classics like Wabash Cannonball and Ramblin' Man. Its influence sparked a wave of new musicians inspired by Donegan's style, even leading to the formation of the Quarrymen, John Lennon's first band. In 1957, Donegan continued his streak of hits, releasing singles such as "Gambling Man" and "Putting on the Style," and a skiffle rendition of Hank Snow's country ballad, "Nobody's Child." The following year, Lonnie performed at a royal variety show, and in 1959, he recorded the million-selling song, "Does Your Chewing Gum Lose Its Flavor on the Bedpost Overnight?", a reworked version of a Boy Scout favorite from his childhood. The song reached number 3 on the UK charts and number 5 in the US. In 1960, Lonnie achieved further success with "My Old Man's a Dustman," a novelty hit that sold over 1 million copies in Britain. This reimagined Liverpool folk tune and First World War marching song, updated with Cockney humour, held the top spot on the charts for 4 weeks. Although it divided opinions among his core skiffle fans, feeling the song leaned more toward music hall. By this time, Lonnie had established himself as a prominent figure in pop music. However, his shift towards comedy and cabaret marked the start of his commercial decline. The British music landscape was evolving quickly, as the musicians he had once inspired sought fresh directions beyond the confines of skiffle. Some musicians began to delve deeper into the works of artists like Leadbelly and Woody Guthrie, becoming part of the burgeoning folk music revival. Others followed the path of Alexis Corner, once a skiffle player alongside Donegan in Ken Collier's band, and immersed themselves in the emerging British blues scene, which would go on to inspire bands like the Rolling Stones. By contrast, Lonnie remained disconnected from these evolving trends, a reality that became apparent by the end of 1962. In August of that year, he released his last major hit, "Pick a Bale of Cotton," but his December follow-up, the comic The Market Song, recorded with Max Miller, failed to chart. Meanwhile, a former skiffle group known as the Quarrymen had reinvented themselves as the Beatles, debuting on the charts with "Love Me Do." Lonnie reportedly remarked, "The Beatles' first records were old-fashioned, archaic rock and roll," expressing resentment over how they disrupted his finances. Lonnie's peak years may have passed, but he remained active and resilient. Having established his own music publishing company in the 1950s, his publishing ventures had significantly expanded by the following decade. He continued to perform, entertaining audiences on the cabaret circuit across America, Australia, and Britain. After a heart attack and quadruple bypass surgery in 1976, Lonnie's career seemed over. However, in 1978, Adam Faith rallied stars like Elton John, Ringo Starr, and Brian May to record "Putting on the Style," sparking a modest comeback. Lonnie continued to perform, releasing albums like Sundown, and touring with Billy Joe Spears in 1983. Though public interest waned, he found renewed recognition in 2000 with Van Morrison's The Skiffle Sessions, live in Belfast 1998, and was honoured with an Ivor Novello Lifetime Achievement Award in 1997 and made an MBE also in 2000. Lonnie performed at Glastonbury in 1999 and Fairport Conventions Festival in 2001. His final album, This Yerada Story, showcased his enduring passion for music. Sadly, on the 3rd of November 2002, aged 71, Lonnie Donegan passed away from a heart attack, whilst doing what he loved. He was midway through a UK tour in Lincolnshire, and was due to perform at a memorial concert for George Harrison at Albert Hall. At the time of his passing, he was survived by his third wife Sharon and their sons, Peter, David and Andrew. By daughters Fiona and Coroner, the children of his first marriage to Maureen Tyler. And by Anthony and Juanita, the children of his second marriage to Jill Westlake. And there you have it. Though his journey ended in 2002, Lonnie's contribution and influence to modern music remains timeless. Thank you for joining us in exploring the extraordinary life and lasting impact of this true pioneer. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Take care and bye for now.